All right, so this is for the second part of lesson 2, Saxon Algebra, Algebra 2, I keep saying 1, Algebra 2, Saxon, 3rd edition, part 2 of lesson 2. We're talking circles. Just a quick reminder, a radius goes like this, and then a diameter would be all the way across. So if we had a diameter, that would look like this guy, all the way across. Both of those things go touch the center. So the radius goes from the center outwards. The diameter goes through the center. Now, pi is what happens when we take the circumference of any circle and we divide it by its diameter. Just a reminder, pi is like 3.1415, and it's a number, it's an irrational number that goes on forever, does not repeat. So then one other thing, a reminder on circumference and area. Here are your formulas. Circumference, remember, is the perimeter of a circle. And the way I remember this is cherry is delicious pie, and your D stands for your diameter. Apple pies are 2. So that's a way to remember your area formula as well. So with that information, let's take a look at some of these questions. We have the area of a circle is 2.2 meters. What is the approximate circumference of that circle? So these ones we're going to be asked to work backwards. So we know the area of a circle is the radius squared times pi. So if we substitute in for our area, we say, okay, 2.2 equals r squared times pi. We're trying to get that r by itself, so we're going to divide both sides by pi. And we get r squared equals 2.2 divided by pi, or I'm sorry, 12.2 divided by pi. And it's always a good idea to use your pi button on your calculator like this. If you do use 3.14, do like 3.1415, because the more decimals that you can throw in there, the more accurate your answer. So we get 3.8833, so 3.8834 if I'm going to be rounding that far, 34. And then the opposite of squaring something is to square root it. So to get that r by itself, I'm going to square root both of those. Just as an FYI, most calculators have an answer button. Mine is, it says A and S. Sometimes you have to hit shift and then an answer button. But what you can do is say, I want to do the square root of that previous answer. So I just hit answer. And that way I don't have to type it in again because I'm lazy. Okay, so r equals 1.97. So the radius equals 1.97. Now go back, read your question. That's always a good idea. It asks for the circumference of the circle. So we have the radius, and now remember our circumference, cherry is delicious pie, and our circumference is our diameter times pi. Well, our diameter, remember, is just double our radius. So if we take that and we multiply it by 2, we end up with 3.94. So 3.94 pi. So our circumference is approximately times pi. We end up with 12.382. So 12.382 meters. Our circumference is approximately that. All right, the circumference of a circle is 8 pi. What is the area? So cherry is delicious pie. And we know our circumference is 8. So, or 8 pi, I'm sorry. So we're going to substitute that in for C. 8 pi equals d pi. All right, let's try and get that d by itself, because once we know the diameter, we can find the radius, and once we have the radius, we can square it and multiply it by pi and get our area. Well, if we divide both these sides by pi, we end up with 8 equals d. All right, so if we know that our diameter is 8, that means our radius has to be 4. So the apple pies are 2. That's how I remember that, right? So the area is the radius squared times pi. So the area of this guy would be 16 pi. And units weren't specified, so you'd say units squared, unless they were, and I just didn't know. Those were our practice answers for our other one. Oh, and then one of our practice problems, my apologies. You already saw the answer, it's 14 pi. So it's 14 pi, but go ahead and try this practice problem and make sure you get 14 pi. So the area of a circle is this. What is the circumference? Remember, area equals radius squared times pi. And if we know the area is 49 pi equals radius squared times pi, divide both sides by pi, I end up with r squared equals 49, square root both sides, r equals 7. So now that we know our radius equals 7, that means our diameter equals 14. So the circumference of the circle is cherry is delicious pie, right? Diameter times pi centimeters. So our circumference would be 14 pi centimeters. Hopefully that helps. We'll see you next time. If you have any questions, leave them below. Otherwise, we'll see you next time.